So we're going to evaluation of both methods. There's straight line method and reducing balance method. So we're going to start with the straight line method. For straight line method, it's always fixed in terms of the amount of depreciation charged. And it also has a residual value, which is the amount, the value of the assets when you are going to dispose it. That's the value of the asset after its economic useful life. So what are the advantages of using straight line method? The first one, the roads. I summarize. I said depreciation figure is the same throughout the accounting period. So because throughout the year, each year that passes by, you're going to charge the same amount on depreciation because it is fixed. Yeah. So that makes it easier. So you don't have to start finding other figures, unlike reducing balancing method, that depreciation value will change each year that passes by. Here it is straightforward. That is the first advantage. The second one, it is easier to use since expense is constant on depreciation. So it is easier to use because the amount of expenses, that means your depreciation value, is the same all through the years. So it is easier. And the last point, it's put into consideration the residual value. Yes, you have the residual value, which is the amount the asset will be sold after its useful economic life. Okay. So these are the advantages of using straight line method. Then what are the problems of using straight line method? One, the wear and tear of assets makes the real value of assets not accurate. As the year passes by, the value of the asset, the asset will witness what we call wear and tear. So which means each amount of depreciation you are charging does not reflect an accurate figure. Okay. So year one, the asset is so good, you are charging the same figure of expenses with the same as year 5, year 7. Okay. So it is not going to be accurate. Okay. Do you get the point? The second one, it is difficult to predict the value which an asset will be sold after its useful life. The residual value that you have given to it, it might not be the value that it's going to be sold. That's why sometimes as soon as you are disposing an asset, you record the loss because you are selling the asset below the carrying value. Okay. Do you get it?
That's why you can sell it in the beginning of the first year you buy it.
But if you are waiting until the economic useful life, the prediction, because it's an estimation, the residual value that you've estimated, you might not as well sell it at that point. That is a disadvantage. The third one, it is a difficult method to use, especially if asset loses a lot of value in early years, as this will mean that asset will be overstated. It is difficult because if the kind of asset you buy loses a lot of value in the earliest years, it means you are charging the same figure, but in the earliest years, it has lost a lot of value. Okay. So losing a lot of value means the amount you are going to place on asset is high at the beginning and it's less at the end. So you are overstating it. Okay. Do you understand? Yeah. So that takes us to reducing balance method. For reducing balance method, it's simply about the percentage charge on the worth of that asset. Okay. That is what reducing balance method is. So in reducing balance method, we have a fixed percentage charge on carrying value. And your carrying value is what? Accumulated depreciation minus the cost. Okay. Right? So what are the advantages of reducing balance method? Number one, it allows an accurate allocation of depreciation due to higher loss in value in early years. For reducing balancing method, the earliest years, you lose huge amounts. And towards the end of the year, towards the end of the life, end of the cycle, the figure starts reducing. Okay. So that means whatever you are charging at the beginning, based on the fact that it is high, it is accurate. Because a high value asset needs to work so well. So the cost you have charged on that asset will be accurate somehow. The total expenses of using assets may be equal when increasing maintenance costs are considered. So the point is this: depreciation is an expense, yes or no? Maintaining the asset is also an expense, isn't it? Yeah. So because you are using reducing balancing method, the asset is still fine at the beginning, and you are charging depreciation. So when you start having issues regarding the asset, that you have to maintain the asset, the value you will be charging will be equal to that amount you have been charging over years when you are making provision for depreciation. Provision for depreciation, the depreciation charged is just like an expenses, same as the maintenance expenses. Okay. But the years you are charged, the first years, you are not maintaining it. So the amount you are able to save in those years when you are not maintaining it, you now use it in the latest in the old years, when the asset is about to finish its economic life.
Okay.
So that amount can be transferred in here.
Okay.
So that's the point there. The third one, it is important when the benefits of using assets are high in the early years because it matches cost with the benefits. In the earliest year, when you bought the asset, the value is high. The amount charged on depreciation is high, which means the cost is high. So that is a matching concept. Because at that point in time, whatever you make with that asset, you are matching it with the cost.
Okay.
And as soon as the value of the asset starts reducing due to depreciation, the reducing balancing method will also be reducing. So it might significantly match each other.
Okay.
Earliest year, higher cost, higher resources, higher return. Lowest years, towards the end of the years, lowest return, lowest depreciation. So it might be accurate. Is it clear? So what are the problems about using reducing balancing method? One, it doesn't take into account any residual value. So you don't have any amount you're going to sell the asset after the end of its useful life, which is not good. You should have an estimate.
Yeah.
Two, it is difficult to determine the level which the asset should be written off. So because the asset will never get to zero, when you use reducing balance method, you would never find a value zero. So because you cannot find the value zero, it means accountants has to decide when to dispose the asset.
Okay.
So how do you know the right time to dispose assets? You wouldn't know. But if you had the residual value, as soon as you are getting to that residual value, you know it is time to sell.
Okay.
So that's another problem about reducing balancing method. Accountants would not know the exact or the suitable time to dispose the asset.
Okay.
And lastly, it is complex, as accountant must not make mistake when charging the amount.
Yeah.
So when you make mistake in charging, then it will not be accurate.
Perfect.
And that means it will not serve the purpose you want it to serve. So that ends chapter 6, depreciation.